You know what? Welcome to another episode of Exclusive. This is one of those episodes I'm proud of. And you know the funny thing, for weeks, I've been trying to get an episode of this particular series out. My God, you don't know how hard I've tried. I I'm gonna have one put it. So this was me trying to shoot one of the episodes just last week, and this was just after 2 weeks ago doing a shoot of this podcast. And I'm already calling it a podcast because it is. It's a show. It's a series. I've done like craft up. I know the name I'm gonna do this for, but let me share the story. Now, after the shout out to all the guests that we've had on our first live studio shoots at Cobam's Creation. I did a couple of shoots that Sunday, came back that night, tried to shoot. I believe I tried shooting that night or the next day. I tried shooting the next day. I sat down, did the episode full 30 to 45 minutes. Immediately I checked it, the video was bad. It didn't record. It got lost. And I'm like, damn. And I don't have it in me to shoot again. And I'm like, jeez, I just went in there and I was reviewing the Netflix Heartbreak High Season 3 and Beauty in Black because I promised a movie review here on the show. And I wanted to get that out. And I just was like, geez Louise. And this was me just getting sick. I'd rather I was getting sick that Monday, but I sat down there and did that 45 minutes. And you all understand what it means to get something done like this. The lighting, the setting up, the set of the mic, getting everything ready, propped and ready to shoot this. And I'm like, damn. And that got lost. And I'm like, okay, so let me focus on getting these episodes out. Got the editor, did all of the craziness and all. And that got me to shooting, I think a week or two later, the video I just played. And damn, after going in 1 hour, I mean, I reviewed everything in the book, sermons, everything I'm about to get in right now with more packed, because this one going to be more packed. Imagine trying to do 3 weeks ago. So you know the content was already there. Now I've kept all this content and 2 more weeks I've added. That's 5 weeks of content. And now this shit happened last week. And then now another additional weeks of content leading up to right now. So right now I'm about to shoot and I'm like testing the waters and all. And I'm gonna try new methods to get this shit out there. And it will not be in reverse. The latest to the olds. That's what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna start from the latest, and when you see this video, you know that I finally got this shit out. And I'm gonna be celebrating myself if I can get this part because I'm like I've been trying to get this shit out there. And I'm gonna celebrate myself if I can get this video out there. I'm gonna do all the edits myself. I'm gonna get this shit out there. And from the content I'm gonna start with, if you are a fan of this product or these people or this, you would know that this is actually from the latest to the old because you know this just happened recently. And damn, you stick with me. This is exclusive with your host Samuel Lyon. Well, and I said I'm gonna start with the latest, and I'm gonna start right here. And also, right there is Ric Flair, the greatest of all time, the GOAT, the 21-time champion. Like he said, because it's true, it's facts. But WWE, 16-time world champion. He was on Ariel Awani's show yesterday on Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. Yesterday's Thursday. I'm shooting on Thursday, so when you get to see this video, just know Thursday. So he was on the show, and I'm a pro wrestling fan. If you did not know that, you can see from the channel that the channel has the video. So I'm a pro wrestling fan, and for Rick, being a fan of wrestling, obviously his famous the famous daughter Charlotte Flair, the Queen, the GOAT. Oh, damn. We know how crazy Rick is. So I've known, as a fan, I've come to know Rick. But I mean, I was born, I'm the last of the 90s. So I'm the 1999 baby, grew up in the 2000s. So didn't really get to see much of Flair's work. The first time I got to see Flair's work was Flair's last match with Shawn Michaels. I think that's about like the my introduction to Ric Flair. I love you, I'm sorry, super kick. That was how I got to know Flair. So I've not really like delved into Ric Flair's work. And that's not like an insult and everything. That's like how like I'm not, and I was not a 70s, 80s, 90s kid. I'm like the last of the 90s. I'm the 2000s. I'm the John Cena's. I'm the Daniel Bryans, the Kofi Kingston's of the world, the Rocks of the world. Not the Rock actually, but like yeah, you get what I mean. So crazy. So but through Charlotte Flair, we've come to know her dad. We've come to know about we know about the legacy. We know about everything that Flair has had to build. We know about the tragedy with his son and the family, with everything, him through and like we know about all of this story. So I've always, take a liking to Flair. I've always known Flair like I mean, I don't go out of my way to watch the match, but like we know how Dave Melt, I say Dave Meltzer, fuck that shit. Dave LaCreca of the Busted Open radio, how he loves Flair. Flair is his favorite. He doesn't shy away from that. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that shit. And how they love him, how they they send they roll out the red carpets for Flair every single time. Like that's it, and I love that for him. Mark Henry, Bully Ray, Tommy Dreamer, everybody loves Ric Flair. Nobody like if you don't love Ric Flair, check your fucking system. And he was on this podcast, and I think this was my first. And obviously, we've had him on Busted Open Radio, but that is with people that love him and revere him and are like that's different. This is I'm not calling Ariel Owani an outsider, but in the term of wrestling, we would want to look at him as that. Oh, he's an outsider and everything. He's the MMA baby, the UFC and all that. But he loves wrestling. Bret Hart is his favorite. At least I know of that. And Ariel Awani is so respectful. We know what how Ariel Awani works so hard, has his live shows every week. Now the On Crown with Solomon Star, Jason is also there. And like you see him put in the work and all. Like, Ariel Awani is one of the most hardest working human being I know of. And I've had to do live shows on YouTube where I piggyback off what everything. Obviously, I'm a student of the game. I'm watching. I'm seeing what they do, and I'm trying to piggyback and like take notes and pieces from everything and incorporate in mine. And I love this sit down so much. You could see the fan in him. And at some point, I wish I'm like, oh shit, I wish this wasn't like virtual. I wish Awani was in person because I'm for sure, for them sure, Awani would have like, oh well, fuck the rest of the show. We are doing all, it will be all Ric Flair. We got all Ric Flair and all that because the stories Rick was telling was crazy. I put this on. I just like literally just I'm gonna take off on. So this was supposed to happen last week, and I'm like, that's what I did, and I took this recording, and that went bad. I hope this doesn't go bad. And I'm like, okay, no, let me just take off. Let me just get this shit done. And I'm there watching this, and Ric Flair was dropping game, and Ric Flair was saying things, and I'm like, damn. And obviously, I took notes. And one of the first things that came went to my when Ric Flair was talking about like Ric Flair. I was like, damn, Ric Flair is going in on like, with Kaiser. All right, if you are a fan of wrestling, you know last year's story with Charlotte Flair, Royal Rumble winner against Tiffany Stratton, which was in that I don't know if she and Ludwig are still in a relationship. If they are, please correct me. And at that time, Tiffany, I don't know why I'm trying to call her Trish. Tiffany was in relationship with Kaiser at that time. I don't know if they're still together, like I said earlier. So the story between Tiffany and Charlotte. Tiffany look like she kind of like looks like Charlotte, like you do all the paper cut, all that shit. And now the story last year, the WrestleMania match and all that, everything went wonky in that their promo and everything, and they start calling out. She brought up Charlotte's divorces and divorce current recently reversed at that time, and then Charlotte brought about Kaiser shit and all of that. So like Rick was talking about how he like everything was just so messy at that time, and which did not make the match great at that time too. So everything just went wonky and all of that. And from Rick's story, Rick was like, okay, then I called up Luke Wick and I'm telling him like, oh fuck shit. I'm like, if I see you on site and I'm gonna beat you up. And like Rick at this time is 77 right now. So as of last year, he should be 76. So there's no way Luke Wick will be threatened with Ric Flair. I mean, if he's threatened talking about legacy and who he is and who he knows, but like the threatening of that physicality, no. So from what Ric Flair said that Ludwig reported to the office and everything, and he was banned from WrestleMania, and he did not even get invited to this year's WrestleMania. So everything just went crazy, and I'm like, damn. So like we just got Rick was just dropping the tea. He talked about too much politics, not enough wrestling, lack of respect for him. Like he was just talking about about the wrestling because everyone was like, what about the product? Do you follow up the product? Obviously, Ric Flair follows up the product, and he was talking about like not about too much politics, not enough wrestling, and you would not even argue with that man when that man said that shit. Because and as a fan right now, we complain about if you by this time our live show for a seminar review would already be out, so you could check that out. You see what the major complaint we had there, like too many ads. I mean, in a wrestling show that was three and a half, almost 4 hours, we had not I think 100 and 1 hour 20, 1 hour 20 minutes of wrestling. You can imagine that in a wrestling show, a show that is centered on wrestling, that is called WrestleMania, not enough wrestling, politics, entrance, like it's all about everything. So he wasn't wrong when he said that. And I know a lot of people going on with Flair about like how he's ruining legacy, his legacy and everything and all of that shit. But like you couldn't, like I couldn't like see, I couldn't like fault him for like the things he was saying. Because at the end of the day, you realize like Ric Flair is fucking 76, like so sorry 77. Like he doesn't give a shit. Like the man has lived life and he's still living life. And he said it himself like people asking like Rick like why are you why are you why are you out in Vegas all night? Why are you out in the casino? Why are you out in the market? Like, what do you want Ric Flair to do at 77? Like sleep? Like man, I'm trying to live like as if, like tomorrow is not promised, so I gotta go out there and live the life. And like it was just a whole lot of that. And he talked about Ric Flair was talking about Zeb Coulter, the Zeb Coulter, Dutch Mantel, the Dutch Mantel situation and everything, bringing up Stevie Richards and all. And he's saying, if you don't have a legacy, you can't talk about a legacy. And I'm like, damn, Rick just going in on everybody. And this was just him trying to be honest because at the end of the day, he's 77, like I said, he's 77 years old. So what do you expect him to do? He's going to be honest. He's going to be, putting in the work and all of that. So who are you? Who you are, what makes you different, and what you bring to the table. So this was Rick like talking about like the three things that he believed, that they do on NXT, and like the lack of people knowing who they are and everything. Like him trying to talk about the current product and all, and like his own standard of like what they need to do, like what needs to be done or what they're already doing and everything, and what sets you apart. You need to know who you are. You need to know what makes you different and what you bring to the table to matter. So like all of these things, get to see. And like it was just almost an hour conversation, 57 minutes and so, but it was amazing. It was lovely because it's Ric Flair. And I gave my life, and this was the part that got me because this is what we do. I do on my podcast, the Chronicle podcast. It's not a cheap plug, but kind of like a cheap plug. Rick, I really want to ask him about like, what would you want your legacy to be like? What would you like if hypothesis and all that shit? And Rick just saying like, I mean, come on. I gave my life like I just want people to know that I like people. My legacy should be like, oh, when you think about Ric Flair, you say, damn, he gave his life to the business, and rightfully so. Anybody that knows Ric Flair will say Ric Flair lived the life. Ric Flair knows like so. It's just like. I was just like, I came up from this interview, I was like, damn, Rick was just reeking, and I loved this. I actually did love the interview so much. Shout out to Ariel Wani and the crew for making that possible. And, you just see Rick Flair giving love, always giving love to his daughter, Charlotte Flair, giving love to the wrestling business because he provided me a lot of things. And he shed more light on that roots of wrestling craziness that happened recently and all of that. Talked about Triple H, talk about everything. It was a whole lot of awesome, and a great handle by Arawani, and I think he did promise Arawani like, no, when I come to New York, I'll take on a private jet and all that shit. And yeah, that was it. Like I love that shit. And yeah. So one of the things to sit on the podcast side of things. But before that, you can see me. I'm sporting flicks where wear it yourself. So this was a brand that I had on my baby, and I felt like I needed to represent it because in the last video, I wanted to represent it, but I was wearing the black one. And I just felt like I needed to represent it. So I just wanted to give it a shout out because the brand is normal now. It's normal. Yeah, in Calabar and all that shit. But I just needed to, be in my what I built at that time. So yeah, we'll share more light on this. You would be seeing me share more things on this because there are wild stories. Not Ric Flair standard, but wild stories. All right, so we moved to John Cena. Just now was on Undertaker's 6 Feet Under podcast with his partner in crime and partner in real life, his wife, Michelle Moko, live at WWE World. This streamed live a couple of days ago, Mania weekend and all. I think Mania, one of the Mania night one, if I'm not mistaken, and yeah. And it was amazing. I had to finally got my eyes on it, and obviously I took notes and that just not talking about not doing business versus staying in character and all of that shit, and business you are having like to separate between business and your personality, and okay, business and you taking things personal, because I think they shared stories on like the Undertaker, with that story with him to WrestleMania 34, 2018, when after the crazy, Undertaker said it how he did not like his match with Roman Reigns, because he feel like he did not really do the work that he was proud, like he was not proud of the match. That's his perspective on like how he performed in that match, and we know how the fans took to Roman after that. That was 2017 back then. I mean, he was put out of the building the next night on Raw and all that, but Undertaker was not, part of that match. And in fact, he, we remember how he dropped his vest, dropped his shoes and everything, his hat and rope and everything, and everything. So like he wasn't proud of that, and he put in the work the following year. Sitting and calling him out, and then coming and vincing. So you just talked about how like sometimes like understanding the business that needs to be done, and understanding how to take things personal and what not to take personal of that shit. So like you just have to veterans sitting down to hatch out things and everything. And he did acknowledge, I like the fact that he acknowledged Chelsea Green, that Chelsea Green is one of those ones. I mean, he was talking about when he was talking about like make the most of your opportunities. And Cena is one of those ones, like we used to say, Cena knows how to read the room. He knows how to understand the opportunities that and know how to manage it. And Michelle talked about how he handled neck surgery and he was there the next day and all of that. We also had a moment where Cena was giving Taker his flowers and literally almost got Taker in the emotional that shit, because like it's not easy having someone acknowledge you. And they talk about their match. The first night he came in with Kurt Angle after 12 minutes, and somebody said Taker been there 12 years, and like Taker also talking about like Cena. Like when one of the times that he knew that okay, this is the guy, and like this is the guy that they will rally around with, like when he came up, like I think a day after his neck surgery, he literally the next day, and he was there at work and all of that, and you just know that this is someone that loves you. And I think that was where he acknowledged Taker in terms of like, you didn't leave this company, even when this company couldn't give back to you the way you have earned. I don't really like the word deserve, but wrestling fans used to say, "Oh, people deserve," but like, okay, you have deserve, but like, you stuck out, like you stuck out for that. You're talking about the loyalty aspect, and I feel that's why, like, sometimes when I watch this, like, because this is one of the things that I was fucking loyal to, and I like it bonds me, just like it did them. It still does, because when you're loyal to something, sometimes like it takes so much from you, so much that you wouldn't have given to any other thing. But you just talk about the endurance aspect, the sticking out of that, and I just love this. You gotta hang with those you are going to trust, and so now getting first drink from hanging out with Undertaker and all of that, and like sometimes you have to pay a price for something that you need in your life. And it was just like a whole candid conversation. I love the sit down. The fans there, you could see that like they were, taking in a lot of things, because they were not really reacting. They were not like literally like reacting to some things, but like you know that okay, we are listening to a conversation that we have opportunity to listen to. So you need to get game here. You need to listen and get in there. And I really did love that sit down, and that took me to this video, because this is how I wanted to start. I wanted to start this episode. This was how I wanted to start it, and but with the Ric Flair and everything, I'm like, let me start with the latest and all of that. Get into the back. So this video, I just really went to my archive on the show. I went on my archive, I think on my, is it on my TikTok? Yes, on my TikTok. I literally went through my archives and I saw this. I'm like, oh, I posted this a couple of years ago. And like literally, I watched that at the market the other day, or and like literally shit hits me like a ton of bricks. And I was like, I wanted to bring it up on the show and watch it again live, and then give my life thoughts, and like literally like why this man. And it was so poetic that I literally did that interview with Cena, and I'm like, I need to talk about it, and I'll talk about it on the show while watching this, and I'm gonna do that right now. And I hope the YouTube let us watch this together, because I want to get like the live reaction while we're watching this. So this, I don't know where this video came from, but I believe it should be sponsored by Cricket, the service provider there. But like, this video spoke a lot to me. I remember when I put it out that time, people like reach out to me, and like, even though they don't love wrestling, we're like, oh, because when you connect with human being, human connection has no like how you can't argue with that. So this was the video with just now one kid that he touched lives without even knowing that he touched the life of that kid. So here we go. Let's watch together.
Diagnosed with, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, and when she got her results, I asked her, um, what her results were. And they were positive. And I was crying and I was shocked. Jonathan's message helped my family because I got his wristband that he gave to me. And when my mom was having her 6-hour surgery, I gave her the wristband and I told her to never give up. And
I paused there because that part. Cena does this thing when he comes in the ring, when he was still wrestling, he throws in his t-shirt in the crowd. And when he's done wrestling after the match, kind of like removes his handband and gives to kids or throw it, something kind of like. But on this particular night, without even knowing, sometimes that's something that happened that you can't even explain. Something that happened like you can't even, you couldn't script this. Because this is what he does every night. This man wrestles, I mean, 7 days a week at that time. Sometimes he wrestles 6 days a week, 5 days a week. Like, you don't know what you are doing there. Sometimes you are just doing some, you just don't know. And this was him after a match, just a random, because this was not even like from the footage. This was like a random day, maybe a random live event. And yeah, oh, there's a kid in front row. Oh, pull up your handband, gives to the kid, not even knowing that this kid is going through one of the worst things. His mom just told him, oh, the mom has cancer. And how he got to the wrestling show, how that happened, we don't even know all of that because the kid did not really go in depth on that. I just want to let you in. This spoke to me, and why I'm doing this on the podcast, on the show, is because these are the things that sometimes we see people in our own lives that we just randomly see, and like we don't really like. You see people, but you don't see people, right? And you just don't know what somebody's going through at that time. So words matter. How you talk to people matter. How you react or your relationship with people matters. And this was one of those proof because this was just him just going about his day, just doing normal John Cena routine. Okay, before the match, throwing the t-shirt. After the match, give away the handband and everything. But on this particular day, whether night or evening, I don't know the time, but on this particular day, this particular act changed her life. And we could just want to get back into the video.
now she's now cancer free.
Cool. At a young age, he has such a great perspective. It's really cool to see, man.
Thank you for everything you've done.
Stop.
For my family.
Get over here. Coolest surprise ever. You're extremely strong, you know that? That's pretty cool.
This is what you gave him. He made sure that through my cancer journey, see, Mom, Cena says never give up. And I'm now cancer free.
That's great.
And that part where she came in with the hand bracelet in a like to show how treasure that was. And this is when you know sometimes God is involved in some things because it's not yes, the item is the handband, but this is the kid giving this handband to the mom. I'm like, this is what I love. I love pro wrestling, and he believes so much that and I'm very sure he would pray. I'm like, God, please. He now always says, never give up. And this woman is about to, this sickness want to take my mom out. I want to remind her that, this is my favorite wrestler. So don't give up with this sickness. Keep fighting. I mean, the woman own is to just go in there, taking the medication and everything. Our body needs to fight this. And this is when you know sometimes God is involved because He will pass through things you did not even think of, people you did not even imagine. Like He just passed through ways you would not even, sometimes you can't even explain. Because tell me how this all happened. Like, okay, got a breast from sin. I'm taking it to my mom. I'm telling my mom, like, never give up. I'm putting this with you throughout your journey. You have to have this handband on. And for some reason, your mom is out of that sickness, and the belief is, oh, it's because of that handband. And I get to meet Sina, and I get to tell him that this happened. I get to tell him thank you for what he did. It's all crazy. That was why I watched this a couple of years ago, and this shit got me. And for the first time seeing it after 2 or 3 years later, I was watching this, and literally, for some reason my eyes got red, and I was crying in the back. I'm like, fuck shit, this is crazy. Because I'm like, damn, I can't even, I won't even want to imagine what that kid must have been going through at that time, being that young, thinking, oh shit, yeah, like, man, we might be losing mom now. And like, how are we going to get deal? Some people just have things to cope, and maybe going to wrestling shows, watching wrestling was like the only thing, and like that was how he was praying, and that was how he was feeling and everything. And I really loved the way everything was done, how they put this video together, short, simple, and like they told the perfect story. And I looked at it, and I'm like, damn. And it just got me. I think one of the reasons why like I got emotional, literally cried when I watched it for the first time, was because I lost my mom couple of years ago, and I was a huge wrestling fan. That was the only thing. That was my escape and everything. And all my siblings, I have older siblings, 8 of them. I don't know how they cope. And this is one of those things where, as now as a podcaster, you would want to. Oh, I would love to like sit down with each and every one of my siblings. I'm like, okay, so okay, let's talk about the real shit. Like, how did you cope when mom died? Because I know how I did mine. And my mom died on a Thursday night, and I'm very sure, I don't know if wrestling was on a Thursday night. At that time, Friday Night SmackDown was on Thursdays. That was as far back as 2018. I need to fact check myself, but I know for sure SmackDown was coming up the next day, either the next day or a day before. But I remember like literally have been an emotional wreck the nights this shit happened, and throughout the next morning receiving guests, going emotional wreck and everything. I'm not sure like I was able to watch it, but I think it's either that same day I'm like, well, crazy. At that time, one of the biggest story going in there was Becky Lynch literally finally saying, F this thing, all of these girls have been betraying me, all of these girls have been using me, and for the first time in my life, I'm not going to stick for this nonsense. I'm going to stand up for myself. And that was around that time my mom died. And at that time, we were already following this story. I'm like, oh shit, Becky's standing up for herself. And for some weird reason, I'm like, damn, I need to go download wrestling. I need to watch what did Becky do this time around. And then Becky won won that championship right during that week. I believe that either that same week, September and all of that. That was the same week Cody Rhodes, bet on himself. The first ever wrestling event to be held that had more than 10,000 fans in an arena. Never done in years. Only by people that bet on themselves. These were two different situations that was happening at that time that my mom died. And it's so funny how sometimes things happen right when you believe you would need it. Because I've kept these stories. I've not told these stories anywhere else. I've not sat down and done. I know we have the Keeping It Real podcast that we haven't shot, and I know for sure I'm going to share full in depth on this. But this is not the podcast for it. But it was more of like the situation where I was like, oh, I had something for me. This wasn't you. These were human beings that I've never seen, but I've watched them through the years. And it's crazy how their stories at that time was getting me through my craziness. And this is a kid losing his mom. And yeah, I am like, oh shit. Okay, so I've been crying all day. I've been literally going emotional record. How can I get myself? Like, how can I cope? Wrestling was there for me. The stories was there for me. And for him, John Cena was there. He never met Cena. And this is like, okay, I'm hanging on something. And like, I mean, God passed through that. Because I believe God has his hand on everything. And that was just one of those situations where you look at it and like, damn, like, because this happened for me. And shout out to other people that made sure that happened. Moving on the show, we shout out to Chris Van Vliet on having Becky on his pod. Becky was on Chris Van Vliet's pod, and obviously Becky Lynch talking about the Wonder Years. They were able to play her in on the WrestleMania, and she talked about like incorporating her dad, with incorporating Rue into the song, like everything was just for her. And you know how WWE, she talk about how WWE wants to be owning everything, and they wanted them to do the cover while they get the real song and all that. But like she made sure that everything was from her. And it's just so crazy, and she like it's one of those episodes that I sat down and I really loved everything that was said. And if you haven't checked out that episode, shout out to Chris Van Vliet from Insight. That podcast was amazing. Shout out to the guys at the guys of like the podcast we do after the match podcast. Shout out to the guys for everything that they did in getting things done. I love what the Pivot podcast did with Trick Williams, and everything. Sometimes how you don't know, like life is connected, like the symbolism in things that happen in our life that you don't really take note until things happen and you're like, oh shit, so this was what it really meant. And he talked about like his career with football, parlaying that to pro wrestling, being in church that very Sunday, and already this is him all through the week, all through the period, that season, that phase in his life is like, oh, the career in football is really tanking and all of that. Like having pro wrestling, yeah, offering an opportunity. What should I do? How should I get this done? And then that very Sunday in church, the pastor is preaching about follow the rock. And in this context, this is like follow the rock. And who's my favorite pro wrestler? Like, the Rock is my favorite pro wrestler. And like wrestling is calling, and, and the pastor is preaching here and everything. And it's like, fuck that shit. I'm like, I'm going with pro wrestling. And here we are years later. Trick Williams is not only the United States champion as of this past Sunday, is one of the brightest stars that you could ever think of. The amount of fame, the amount of money, the amount of, he's hanging out with Lil Yachty. Like the amount of things he's been able to do as a pro wrestler that he's just been here literally over 5 years. He can even attest to it that is for sure football would not have given that to him in those amount of years. Wrestling did for him. So sometimes betting on ourselves, listening to our instincts, and managing things that needs to be managed at that time really actually do work. And one of the things he said on this podcast that got me was sometimes you can't explain grace. And I'm like, damn, Trick was, Trick turned to a preacher there for us. Yeah, he talked about you gotta clap for others till it gets to your turn. Don't let anyone deter you from what you want to be. Like, don't let anyone deter you. But that part said you gotta clap for others until it's your turn. It's one of those ones that I've heard over the years. But it was special when he said it, because we've seen Trick come in to be a hype man to Carmelo Hayes, and all through the years, I'm gonna say it myself. Like I was not a fan of Trick. I was what is there to like about Trick? It's everything you would want to hit. There he is, tall, handsome, black, looking like a $1,000,000. He looks like Hollywood standard, and you're like, oh, you want to hit him. I'm like, oh, you believe Trick gets everything handed to him, but all over the years, listening to what he had to go through, listening to him on different podcasts and being asked him questions, and seeing the struggles that he had to go through. And like sometimes you have to take off the eyeglass and look at people for really who they are and who they are trying to be. And Trick is one of those embodiments of passion, growth, and evolution. Because Trick 3 years ago and Trick right now, the difference is fucking clear. And I looked into that, and when the party was talking about when you clap for others, you see all through his football years, all through his pro wrestling years, from being a bodyguard to Apollo Crews, which is not even in something serious, being hype man to Melo for years. Like literally, he's been through the waters. He's been everything. He's been clapping for others all through the years. Now is his time. So if you're not gonna clap for him while he's getting to the top, don't complain when yours doesn't come in. And he's also, like, I like the fact that he's very proud and open about, I'm going to be happy for others, even when it's not my time. I'm gonna understand that and all of that. And I really love that podcast, that sit down. It was just like Trick talking to three of his uncles, and I know he gave Freddie T the shits on the podcast too. But I love that shit telling Freddie T, because Freddie T was like, "Oh, I will have you sign an autograph for me." Sign up, you're this like Freddie T. But when you were a football star, I tried to come in for an autograph, you run away from me, and I'm like, that was a full circle moment. Like, you can't script that. Trick was a football fan, and years later, here he is as a pro wrestler, getting interviewed by the legends and the stars that he was in love with, that he was pursuing. There's just something you can't script. And here on Hello Media, we just try to encompass all of this and get this to you. And that story with Trick and Trick on this podcast was one of them stories that I wanted to get out there for you guys. Shout out to Triple H, and Triple H his WrestleMania talk with Jill Tess. Love that. I think this was the first time Triple H was not like all in on like the WWE post show, doing all of that. We have notes on the post show for WrestleMania. We talk about Nick Saban when he was commenting on Obafemi and talking about like how he said a lot about him. We missed out on Obafemi. We talk about Lil Yachty, and Trick. Talking about, I love seeing the Black Stars being, like the evolution of the Black Stars and the incorporation of Black Stars in WWE TV is one of the sites that I can't get enough of. We love what Bukati is doing with the guys, how he's like showing up for the guys and giving them the spotlights. Trick, Lash, Evans, Obafemi, all of that. Roman Reigns was on the post show. Thank you to Brock Lesnar, like putting up over. And I know we're gonna talk more on that when we're gonna have a wrestling show and all of that. Shout out to Paige and Fatu for making that post show worth watching. Like, Paige brought in Paige is one of them girls that you look at and like, Jesus. For someone that is barely scratched the surface, I believe Paige is 30 something. She's not even out of the 30s yet, and this girl has been through shit. And as a fan, it was a surreal moment. Although it was ruined for us. It was ruined for us on the news on Twitter. That's why I tried to get off Twitter. I tried to literally get off Twitter. Like I can this during WrestleMania week, I literally got off Twitter and all of that. I literally took off all my social media accounts because I don't want any spoilers and all. And getting to still see Paige, coming there was one of a surreal moments for me as a fan. Literally, because I'm just so happy to see human being thrive. Like, happy to see human beings succeed with everything that girl had to go through and all of that. So it was just happy. I was just happy to see her. The Cody Rhodes situation. Cody needed to do something, and he did. That bloody look, the eyes, everything. Damn. We saw him on Monday Night Raw with CM Punk and all of that. Shout out to Dominic Mysterio. Dominic is one of those ones too that when you get to see, you just appreciate the act. You appreciate the work that this boy has put on. And if you have told me this kid that came in 2020 and looking like a fish fresh out of water, and like now he has grown into the king of the luchadors, like what he's doing with Liv Morgan and everything, it's just crazy. It's beautiful. Shout out to Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, and Bianca brought us to tears with announcing that she's pregnant. And if you follow the shows and you know how she and Montez, talk about her career was thriving over the years. And sometimes this is it with women when you are successful, you're an athlete, or in other industries that needs your time and energy, and you still have to remember that, oh fuck shit, I'm a wife, and you are in the spotlight. And for Bianca Belair being a superstar, I'm not saying her husband is not a superstar, but in that household, the superstar is Bianca Belair. And to just see how I think I don't know, Hulu did a show on them, where you could see the family scenario, the reality show, where you see, although Montez has kids outside, that was before the marriage, but obviously he's so loud and making everybody know that, letting her know that, oh, I want to have kids with you, I want to have kids. But you understand, like right now she's driving in her car now. So it was so shocking shocking to see her come out on WrestleMania. I'm like, damn, I know we want Bianca to come back, but like, you're not supposed to come back like this. Now you come back to attack Rhea and get the story started and all of that. And then we are seeing her come out doing John Cena's segment as the host of WrestleMania, and then she's announcing that she's pregnant. And as a fan, Let me tell you my reaction. I was like, damn it. I was so pissed. But I just had to take the fan hat out and like as a human being, I'm like knowing the story, knowing how she also wanted to have a child, but because of the career and everything, and sometimes when opportunity hits, you have to take it. She went out on injury, and this fucking finger injury was taking time for a year. Like, what do you want her to do? Sit down and lock her legs? No way. She if I'm already out for an injury for more than 6 months, getting to a year. How about I just get fucking pregnant and let's just go out another one more year? And just like Alexa did it, other women have done it. Go out there, have babies, come back and still become stars and still become the stars that they are. Alexa has done it. She went out for 2 years, got pregnant, got the baby done, and yes, she's back. Alexa has been doing one of the best jobs of her career since coming back since last year. Ronda Rousey did it. Who is having the biggest MMA fight come May? Ronda fucking Rousey is having we had a note here on Ronda Rousey with the presser that we're gonna get into, not on this show, but like women have been going out there having kids and still having a badass career. So why would Bianca be any less? So I like what they did there. She coming out to announce, and I'm like, in as much as I love back to the Brock, thank you Brock thing, and Brock is one of those characters that I would love to one day have like a show where I sit down and break down the career. But here was just like my thank you to Brock because I don't know what that was, and if that was a retirement, and we have been speculating that it's a retirement and all that, but like I don't want to get into that because that's so crazy, and it's just been one of those ones, and I love all the sermons that I was able to catch up on. Shout out to Insights with what they did with Paul White and Liv Morgan. Incredible episodes. I love that. I took notes on that. I just learned. It just took me to where I learned a lot from the characters and what they were able to do, and you just see how they are as human beings. Although he didn't Chris did not get to have the full interview with Liv Morgan and all of that because of like the situation at that time. But that was still one of those best sit down that I got, and I love that. Love what Paul White was able to do. But this is me, trying to get the show, wrapping the show. Yeah. Mojo Brooks. Mojo Brooks. For those of the culture, those of you in the culture, you know who Mojo Brooks is, a comic act. He was on Club Shay Shay. Unc Shannon Sharp always doing great job with his podcast and getting us out there. And I love what obviously because this is why podcast is way different because it's not like the radio show or the morning show, the TV shows where they just want to give you already maybe questions they've already sent out to you for you to review, and then you just come in there and play the hits and go. But this is where you like 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, some people 4 hours. You just sit back, kick back, and just go. Just talk as human beings. And this is what he achieved with Mojo Brooks. Yeah, I loved everything they did. I think one of the things they did here was uncommunicated expectations. And I like how Mojo really had to speak on this because sometimes as adults we don't really understand. We tend to look past the effect of communication and why that, as simple as that could get, it's still one of the hardest things people do, and who's not a defaulter of that. I am a defaulter of that too. So, but I love communicating. I love expressing, and sometimes that could come out some kind of way. And I love how he did talk about this. He talked about like people ain't hating who got nothing. And that part got me. And you see some people when people get hate, when people get just things, and you just like because nobody got time to hate somebody that not has anything going on for them. If you are being hated, if you are being hated, like you just have to review. Okay, so what am I doing right? That like I'm having all this craziness all over me, and nobody cares about your excuses and your whys. All they care about is can you make it happen? And I'm like, he said this, and he's not the only person that said something like this. We had, I say we had, as if, oh wow, I can't wait to have such guests. So Imagrade had Cardi B on her pod, Aspire, and she said something similar, if not better. Same thing with Triple H on. I know I'm just going through all the hits here. Yeah, Cardi B said the same thing when she like talked about like you should doing it now. And she talked about partnerships. Partnerships with who sees the vision is what is needed. I'm trying to get. Sometimes you end helping people by constantly having. That's not it. That's not it. Literally, I took way more notes than I would have thought I would, but this shit was crazy because Kadebe was dropping game on this particular sit down with Imagrade, and I okay. So she said no more excuse. No excuse, no more. You want it. You want it. Go out there, learn about it. Go out there, do it. So because nobody cares about your excuses, at the end of the day, nobody's gonna sit back and come and tell you like, oh, this what like, can you get it done? That's just everything people want to do. And she talked about partnerships. Keeping up with the accounts. It was just like literally, you could go check out Aspire with Magrade. That sit down with Cardi B was amazing. So even what Mojo did, amazing sit down too, because it was everything just kind of like correlates with what they did, and sit down with Triple H and in what's your story. What's your story is actually with the wife. I really did that. What do you want to talk about with Cody Rhodes, the podcast? They talked about believability, perspectives, wrestlers' lies, talk about like, well, one of the things, the key things I took out of this podcast was what he said about Bobby Roode. And we all know Bobby Roode, what Bobby Roode has done with the company and all of that. To talk about how Bobby Roode is a fucking sponge, it's one of those cool things because sometimes you see wrestlers that have lost, like, when I say lost, kind of like, because they say wrestlers or superstars or people that have fame, you die twice because what you did, you love what you did, your career, you loved it, and when you finally have to say goodbye because of maybe age and like time to like let go of what you do, and that's the first death, and then the one when you're taken out of the world, so you die twice. So it's one of those things you sit down back and to see Bobby Roode, being on the strides. And I remember when Michael Hayes was on a podcast with Undertaker when he said that Triple H came up to him and like, Bobby Roode is the next, is the guy I want. That's my Patterson. That is Patterson. Now is my own Michael Hayes. Like, this is the next guy we should build up, and we see how instrumental Bobby Roode has been. We see how he's been, what he's done behind the scene, and it's one of those things where you're like, what do you do when life hits you in a place that you don't want to be hit at that time? What do you do? Do you just take the hit and just go into the dark, or do you just take the hit and like, fuck this shit, I'm gonna turn this shit around? And probably one of those ones that we look at and like he has done it. I need to give shout outs to the sermons that I've literally got my eyes on these past couple of weeks. Like I said in earlier on the episode, that I've been trying to get this episode out for almost 5 weeks now, and shits have been happening. But if you get to watch this, that means I finally got it out. And all of these sermons that I had, I was an opportunity to have on, spoke to me, was able to help me through it, and I wanted to share it with you guys and have you go check it out, because if you would just see why this was pushing me to get it out to you to see. All right, so the very first one I'm gonna go is Bishop TD Jakes retired. I believe this should be a year plus now, but he's now freestyling, where he's getting invites to other dominations, and going there to preach and just literally be a freelance preacher. And he has his podcast now, Next Chapter, that he has incredible guests on, and I've checked out a couple of episodes. I believe there's a latest one out there with his wife that I saw something on Facebook. I need to believe it, check that out, because that will be game. There will be a lot of game drop there. I've checked a couple of episodes with his daughter, Sarah, Pastor Sarah Jakes, the one with Oprah, the one with Denzel Washington. One of the one with his doctor that was able to help out. That was able to help rescue him when he had his massive heart attack right in church last year or year before last. So it was like one of those things going crazy and all of that. But like his sermon on Easter Sunday, was like, damn, that's one of those ones that like, damn, I just couldn't watch this alone. I just wanted to talk about it so bad. I took so many notes that I'm like, damn, I don't know. Even putting out a post on social media will not do it justice. I need to talk about it. The topic, sticks and stones. And it was the symbolism of the topic for me, because this is why sometimes, shout out to the pastors I'm gonna shout out today. um he talking about like because the more to really extrapolate this whole thing was like the exit of the children of Israel. Like, this is not a disclaimer. This is not like a spiritual podcast and all of that. But like, we try to hit everything. But like, we know the story of the children of Israel. We know how they were trying to get freedom and how they got to the Red Sea, and the stick here in question being the rod where uh, Moses hit the sea with, and everything parted, and they were able to pass through it, and the enemies was chasing them right behind them, and they had to walk through that. And sometimes you see that when I was in, like, sometimes you know stories, and when you hear about the stories, you're like, damn, why did I think about it the other way? Like, how did, okay, the sea, like, me, I already be so scared, like the sea parted, like I'm walking through waters just standing, and the ground is as dry, like, because there's water, like, so it was dry, and I walked past it. And like, the craziness, it sounds like something out of a Hollywood movie. And they passed through it, and the enemies were sitting them right behind them. And then they were at the other side, and they had to use the same rod. Moses had to use the same rod, hit the sea, and everything went back together. And there was a point in this sermon, he said, no, 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 no. No, 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 no. I need to get this. Bear with me. I need to get this part out. Um, okay. But like I said a quote. They drown. The people chasing them. They drown in what Israelites walk through. That part got me, because sometimes you hear people survive things that you be like, there's no way in hell I would survive that kind of shit. Like, what do you mean Ric Flair survived an airplane crash? What do you mean? There are stories and things you would see, and yeah, and you'll be like, wait, what? Like, they survived that, because you tell me these people were chased down to the Red Sea, and God helped them pass, that gave them a path to walk through, and the same path they walked through, the Egyptians, they were trying to walk through that same path, but they drowned in that. And you're like, damn. And Bishop tried to really bring into perspective about sticks and stones. He talked about, like, taste and test and gossip, murmuring go together when you are not satisfied. Like, he talked about, we should not pretend as if we don't always complain at the end of the day. Sometimes you complain about things. Like, it's one of those sermons you sit down and you're like, damn. Like, I was grateful that I was able to check that out. It's out there on the Potter's House of Dallas YouTube channel. And love the podcast Steph did with Logan Paul. Amazing. Talk about like his dad, and how his dad has been like, the work ethics. That was the dad for him. And my conversation with my friend Okema, I think we were on the morning. This morning we were on a video call, and this was on his birthday. Like, I've always celebrated his birthday, and for some reason this particular year I just forgot. And I remember, like, I need to tell him the truth that I did. And on the episode that on the podcast I said I recorded that, I went in depth on our relationship and all of that. And I know for one day for sure I'm gonna get in on that, and how important and how valuable that he is to me. And we talked. It's so funny how we talked about this morning about value, and he doesn't even know that I did a podcast that he know that we have no proof of again. That I talked about this exact same thing, value, and I never told him that on the phone call. And it's so funny that I'm about to say this, because like, we just lost somebody recently, an influencer, someone here that we know of, here in Calabar that we know of. And I glanced through my. You know what? I'm not gonna go in on that yet. I'm gonna be respectful for sure I'm gonna talk about this. But shout out to my friend Okima Samuel. Check him out, Street Media. He's doing a great job. He's great editor and all of that shit. And shout out to Pastor Kian Anderson. The past couple of weeks with all the people that he's been able to bring to Christ, with the kid gangbanger that gave his life to Christ right on doing his sermon. I believe the silence before the show. Um, all the sermons that pastor has been able to change lives in, and been able to help go through. I had a lot of notes taken, even execution of our excitement. The Take Action podcast he does. I think it's out on Spotify too, but it's on YouTube, Kion Anderson TV. You could go check it out. Um, all the sermons that K. Michelle was on the podcast with Jason Lee, Nore, Jennifer Lewis, like a crazy. Even we're gonna go in on that, but like still back on like the test after the years, the root of prayer. Pastor Keenan Anderson has been doing great work. I mean, shout out to him and everything. The people that have been coming to Christ. I love everything with the girls and all of the things that I had to go through, and it's just been amazing and all of that. And then just shout out, this time is different. Pastor Sarah Jakes Roberts' incredible work that she's been doing with the church and everything, and her sermons, speaks a lot to me and all of that. We had notes on that, and I really love, shout outs to them and all of that. I'm done starting over another sermon by Pastor Kenan Anderson. Like, it's just been so real, and I just wanted to share that out with you guys. Shout out again to the Insight of Chris Van Vliet, and it was amazing. It's been crazy. Norway was on Jason Lee's podcast, and recently, last but not least, the pod with Boozy. Boozy was on the podcast too. And my God, Boozy was just crazy. Boozy Badass was on the podcast, Jason Lee podcast. Boozy was just crazy, and I literally did not take no notes. And I'm gonna take a picture that I show that I did not take no notes. Unlike Stephanie Vaquer being on the pod with Chris Van Vliet, I literally took notes on that, but no notes on Boozy. And I'm gonna show you that I took no notes on it because it was just fun. And I'm like, I just want to have fun, like drop the notes. And I wasn't on my notepad, but I couldn't take nothing because I'm like, Boozy was like dropping game, just like seeing two adults sit down and just have conversations like constructive criticism and like just literally go in and talk about things that matter to them and all of that. And I really did like every single bit of it. I'll leave out that for tomorrow morning. And it's just like one of those things that you see and you're like, damn, I'm happy, I'm proud to be a part of and all that. And I'm grateful for all the things I was able to, to check, be able to check the Netflix Heartbreak Eye season 3, check Tyler Perry's Building Black. We're able to even watch Blue Therapy on Netflix. That's another one you need to give a shout out to. A therapeutic show, Baba therapy with couples, all of that, all down 9 yards, and it's been like an amazing time. And this is one of the things I want to achieve with this particular show, is being able to share what I've watched and just give my thoughts and reaction to it, and hopefully when you watch this, you could, anyone you feel like you could check, or if you could send in, your reactions to me on social media, and or commenting, liking, subscribing, and commenting yes you, so that you could, you could recommend what I need to check out so I can come review. But I'm gonna give spoilers for the next episode, so we're gonna still go in and do more on the sermons, give review on that in depth, hopefully. Also, another spoiler, we'll be checking out the latest episode of Jason Lee podcast with Tiffany Haddish, my fave. I'm gonna try and get my eyes on that. The next episode of this podcast, you're gonna get to see that, me give the full review of that. I'm gonna give my time to that. And also, the critically acclaimed autobiography biopic that they did on Michael fucking Jackson. Okay, so Rotten Tomatoes has dropped their review. Is 27%. That's the one of the lowest scores I've seen for something. I'm like, damn. So a couple of people have posted on timelines. I've asked them. They said if they've checked it out, like it's deserving of that review. And I'm like, damn. And one of my presents, which I'm gonna be all out for him, come April 30th at Huggies Luxury for the odds. he did send me a message. I showed him a text. Maven was like, everything is personal these days. You could check it out, and it's the best thing since sliced bread for you. So it's not gonna ruin it for me. It's like, just go check it out. Everything is personal. You could check it out and just, I'm like, damn, I wanted to review this, but with everybody, giving their reviews and talking shit and all that, I'm like, damn, like, he's like, no, 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 no. You check it out yourself and then you see what you make out of it. And I'm like, well, so I can't, wait to do that. And with that, I say thank you to each and every one of you that gets to see this, and I appreciate you. Like, share, subscribe, and comment on the comment section. And this was exclusive here on Hello Media, and I still remain your host, Samuel Lyon.